Welcome, everyone. Apologize for the delay. This is the Tooele Valley Rural Planning Organization meeting held December 11th, 1:30 p.m. at Tooele County Council Chambers. And appreciate everybody joining today. Let's go around and do introductions in person first, and then we'll go online. Council member. Thank you.
Scott Drubay, Urda City. Terry Minor, Urda City. Kendall Thomas, Tooele County Council.
Esther, Tooele County. Olivia Vaughn, ZTA Planning.
Kevin, North Tooele Fire District.
Kim Clausing, North Tooele Fire District.
Great.
Brittany Lopez, Tooele County.
And Wayne Benyon, Wasatch Front Regional Council. Do you want to call?
Let's see. Sure. Rosie, let's start with you, and then Jay after that.
Rosie Hernandez, Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Rosie's got me locked out of video, but Jay Aguilar, UDOT, Long Range Planning.
Yeah, Jay, I couldn't turn my video on either. There's a restriction that says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. So
Yeah.
This is a
That's it.
webinar, that's why you can't do a video.
okay.
I won't take it personal then.
All right, Chip.
Hi, I am Chip Hill. I'm the Region 2 Traffic Operations Engineer for UDOT.
Juan.
Juan Spradlin, UDOT Project Manager, Region 2,
Sarah?
for several projects in the area. Okay.
Sarah.
Sarah Kay, I am representing UDOT with the SR 36980 project.
Jesse.
Jesse Wilson, Grantsville City Manager.
Mayor Wynn.
Debbie Wynn, Tooele City Mayor.
Paul.
Paul Hansen, Tooele City Engineer.
Jared.
Jared Stewart, Tooele City Economic Development.
Becky. I think these ones are not, let me, hold on. I tried to promote them and they wouldn't accept me. Hi. Becky.
Becky Stromness, UDOT PM.
Dan.
Dan England, Grantsville City, City Engineer.
Mayor Critchlow.
Mayor Critchlow, Mayor of Grantsville.
Councilman Hamner.
Councilman Hamner, Tooele County.
And Jamie.
Jamie Grand Prix, Public Works Director for Tooele City.
And
Welch, Tooele County Manager.
Awesome. Again, welcome everyone. And we'll start with the minutes from September 11th. Anyone care to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Councilman Thomas. And a second. Thank you, Terry. Appreciate it. Councilman. And all in favor?
Aye.
Terrific. Those will stand approved. We'll turn the time to Juan for a Mid-Valley Highway update.
All right. This is going to be pretty brief. We are at the final stage last week of getting the environmental document for Mid-Valley Highway Phase 2 and 3 completed, signed, and a record of a decision made in about a week, another week. With that, the next phase of the project, we have the Transportation Commission granted us $500,000 to begin the long lead process to obtain the easement going through the Tooele Army Depot's land. So we are expecting 2-ish years to make have that process go through the federal process through the Department of the Interior. So with that, the phase 2, the portion from SR 138, where the current Mid Valley ends, and it goes from there to SR 112. That portion is not funded in the long range, STIP long range, and then the portion from 112 to SR 136 tying into, to SR 36 slightly north of the depot's entrance. That portion is on the phase 2 of the long range. So it's in queue to be funded, which means that that portion is eligible for a corridor preservation funds. So anyway, that is my overall update.
Thank you, Juan. Any questions either online or in person for Juan? Councilman Thomas?
Yeah, just Juan.
Do you mind?
Juan, this is Kendall Thomas, Tooele County Council. Hey, question, so the follow-up on that is this coming, just an information, this coming Thursday at 10 o'clock, my understanding is that the state transportation committee will be meeting in Salt Lake. I don't know if that's worth anybody attending. I was going to plan on attending, but that's this Thursday at 10 o'clock. And then also I know in February, the transportation committee is coming out to Tooele County to have a discussion. So do you have anything about that? Any idea how that's going to play out?
So I will be attending that tour in February, and we've planned out a route to feature the county. It will start at the county building, and then we will go south to the depot's entrance, and then loop back and weave through the neighborhood closest to where Mid Valley, the south portion will be, where I will point out, where it would go, and turn on to Utah Ave and head west and tie into 112, stopping at the Desert Peak, and then head out to Grantsville after. Then we are thinking of giving the commission a tour of the salt plant, either Morton's or the other one that's out there. And then coming back on I-80, and I'll point out the successes for the phase 1 of Mid Valley Highway, and then we'll turn off of SR 36 and head on south and talk about the future, the current widening that's happening, that's going to happen, and then come back to the county office.
So question though is, so that's going to be a bus tour for the committee, and
yes,
we're going to have a chance to have any dialogue with them.
Yes, I believe at the county building before, and maybe even after, but I believe it's before. You can do a presentation of your needs.
Juan, would it be all right if this is Wayne, offer a few points of clarification, at least how the commission meetings usually go? One of my responsibilities, for better or for worse, is to attend most of these commission meetings, and I could share a little more information if that would be helpful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This would be my first one, so
Well, then, Wayne, thank you. And that's all the questions I have, because we all know it's really important to get on that funding list. And so whatever we can do as a committee, as the county, what can we do to be supportive to get on it? We want to be important, in that discussion. So anyhow, thanks and I appreciate Quan, and Wayne, you can update that. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you want that information now or after the meeting?
Whatever's appropriate.
Okay.
Either way, I'm okay either way.
Okay, maybe I'll, unless anybody online wants it sooner, maybe I'll go ahead and share that after the meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Juan. Any other questions for Juan? All right, appreciate that update, and we'll turn to Becky Stromness for an update on the SR 36 and I-80 projects.
Yeah, I think Sarah's going to try and share. So hopefully you can grant her the ability to share. And she can bring up a little project overview flyer.
Let's see. Mine's saying right now that it's disabled.
Hang on just a minute.
Okay, yep, no problem.
Okay, let's try it.
There we go.
All right, thank you. So I think last time that I was part of this meeting a couple months ago, I was just saying we were just barely trying to get someone hired as far as the design aspect is concerned. So we have successfully hired a consultant, and they are well on their way and getting knee deep into the design. There's a lot that has to happen when you start a design. You have to go survey the whole area, do environmental resource documentation, locate all the potential utilities. So there's just a lot of legwork to get going, but our design is going well. We just had our geometry review, which some people equate that to about a 30% design. We're looking to reach our 90% design, or what we call PS&E at UDOT, towards the end of January. So about month and a couple weeks out on getting there. Our hope is that we're still going to be able to advertise and get this project under construction this summer. And the reason I say the hope is, good thing you just mentioned the commission meeting coming up in February, as we've done our first geometry design and cost estimate. We found out we're short money. So we're now seeking additional funds to be added to this project. So we kind of have to get that money before we can advertise the project. So hopefully in February, we're able to obtain the additional funds that we need for the project, so that we could get underway with construction this summer. All right, so if you're looking at the map now, or this figure here, as a reminder, we're adding a third lane in the southbound direction. Look at the orange piece. So we start at Sunset Road and go to about Stansbury Parkway. So that's the part I'm focused on right now that we're trying to get to construction for next summer. Pretty straightforward with what we're trying to do. Obviously, as we come to intersections, some consideration to making sure we're aligning and adjusting signal heads, signal poles to get it all to fit there. So far, we don't anticipate any right-of-way, so that's great news. We do have some minor utility relocations at those intersections and along the corridor, just where things have been currently placed next to the shoulder of the road. We're gonna move those out several feet so they won't be buried underneath the road. So that's the current project. And then the second project that I've previously mentioned is shown in the dark blue and the light blue on I-80. So this, we're just starting collecting that same information I just mentioned for southbound. More focus though up on the I-80 piece. So starting the design there, we do anticipate there's likely to be some minor right-of-way along the edge of the road, especially in the Lake Point area next to those businesses. But the scope of that project is adding the third lane in the northbound direction. So starting at Stansbury, basically up to I-80, and then we have the on-ramp that continues or onto I-80 up to the exit to 201, where we'll be adding an auxiliary lane. So for those that aren't super familiar, That basically is just kind of connecting the two ramps to each other and not necessarily a mainline capacity project there. The portion on I-80 is a bit tricky though. We are very, very close to railroad and there's some steep slopes there. Trying to determine what needs to be, if we need retaining walls, things like that. So that hopefully that's an overview of the project and where we're currently at. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Becky. Chief, please come to the mic.
My name is Kevin and I'm the North Tooele Fire District Fire Chief. In the area you're talking about, right down 36, I know you were talking about additional funding in there. You've got pipeline resource and you've got water that is not there as well. So as you're expanding or looking for infrastructure in through that area, both areas might be able to help.
So I know that, are you meaning the UNEV pipeline that crosses?
Yes.
Okay,
right.
Aware of that. And then you said, what was the other one? Water? Was there a
Water.
particular...
There is a significant lack of water going from Pole Canyon Road all the way down to Sunset. There's only a 6-inch water line down there. So as you're looking to expand in that area, putting more water resources in there would be very helpful.
Okay, yeah, I don't know that we will be adding anything because we aren't a resource supplier. But if there's utility companies or providers, we can certainly work with them through betterments to incorporate improvements. Thanks for letting us know.
Something to note.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Any further comments or questions for Becky? I'll just note the intent with the eastbound auxiliary lane on I-80 is to do something that was done a couple of years ago westbound to make a continuous lane, like you said, between 201 and 80, right? Okay.
Yeah. Yep. We're just trying to match what was done in westbound a couple of years ago.
Great. Councilmember Von Hatten has a comment or a question.
Kathleen Von Hatley Point. I heard that you're doing the study for Sunset and SR 36 for the traffic possible signal. Have we had any results yet?
Yes, Councilwoman. I was just writing an email back to you. I saw your email today. So the study did come back, and it showed a peak hour warrant for left turns. So we're going to meet out there on this Thursday at 10. Or we've got 2 locations in Tooele County we're meeting at. And I'm not sure which one is first, whether it's this one or the one farther south, to look at that intersection with our signal group from Central and discuss the next steps in that process. And if we're going to put it in, we're going to try to add it to Becky's northbound project. That would be the one to add it to.
That would not till 2025 then?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right. Let's see. One thing I'll note, it sounds like there's that meeting at 10 o'clock Thursday. The commission, the State Transportation Commission meets, I don't recall, 7 or 8 times a year, and they have a meeting over at the UDOT complex, the Calvin Rampton complex, this Friday beginning at 9 o'clock. So that's one of their regularly scheduled meetings. Each of their scheduled meetings has an opportunity for public comment. And sometimes it can be helpful to coordinate with a couple folks at UDOT in advance if you're interested in making that public comment. We'll send out, we'll try to send out some contact information tomorrow on those particular people who coordinate the commission meetings. But With that, let's go to item 4. Thank you, Becky. And that's useful information. So appreciate it very much. Like to turn some time to Olivia Vons, who will share the draft transit element for the 2050 RPO plan for discussion today.
Yes,
Olivia.
thanks, Wayne. I don't know if you want to, I don't have it pulled up on here, but if you want to pull it up in there. Oh, okay, sweet.
It's a student after.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah,
that's like that. Well, it just, mouse not connected to the Wi-Fi, so I don't know if it's easy. Oh no, it's going. There we go. Perfect. All right, so here is the draft summary we have here. I worked with Wayne here.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Wayne, we can't see the presentation.
Because I don't have the presentation myself, I don't have a way to share that with you. So I'll try to zoom in as close as I can to her screen.
I think it was sent out an email, but it wasn't.
Sorry, Rosie. It was sent with the agenda or the meeting materials. I don't know if you're able to, maybe in the next couple of minutes, if you'd be able to somehow grab that from the meeting materials and share it. Oh.
That's just our screen.
Okay, that's
on mine. They can't see that.
Thank you.
Wayne, this is Paul. Can you remind me who that email would have come from so I can find it?
Yeah, it's from Rosie Hernandez with WFRC. And
thank you.
I just dropped it in the chat. Is that the draft summary of Tooele Valley 2050 transit element?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I just dropped it in the chat.
Excellent. Appreciate that. Thanks for your patience, Olivia.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for sharing that, Rosie. Yes, so for this draft summary, I worked with our service planning and innovative mobility solutions team to kind of put together what would be the draft summary for the Wayne had shared previously. There was 2020 to 2040 plan. So we're looking at now the 2050 transit element. And so as you can see here in the beginning, for the near term, we're kind of focusing more just on our current services and kind of looking at what could be improved on there. One of the biggest things that we're focusing on overall is improving regional connections, and along with that, just kind of continuing the on-demand service, which is currently functioning at a very high capacity within Tooele County. And so right now with the near term from the 2032, we're looking at more focusing on improving the reliability as well as the transportation work non-commuter and non-student populations. And so this is more of the building on the foundation element and pursuing those strategies that'll help us go into the intermediate term. And so for that one from the 2033 to 2042, we're looking now at more adding on to the service. So, and also keep in mind with these are more of unconstrained elements. So it would be fluctuating on ridership and revenue and other factors. So for the intermediate, we're looking more increasing that service capability of on-demand with more vehicles and operators as it is operating that higher capacity. Right now, they're having longer wait times and lower reliability. So those would be two really big things to help improve that. And then with monitoring the performance of on-demand service and implementation of a flex route or fixed service, we're kind of looking here at what it would look like to have the on-demand as the foundational network, and then seeing what it look like to start building onto then the flex route or fixed route. And then we would also add on that paratransit coverage, which comes along with any fixed route bus service. And that would go along with seeing more higher usage of the on-demand service. And also here, just working still to gathering data in order to keep up that performance monitoring so we know where to put those services in the future. And then in addition, also improving the pedestrian and cyclist access, which goes in hand with UDOT's creating more of that statewide trail network. And so that would be a really good connection where we're looking at active transportation connections to transit services. And then for the long term, right now we have an all-day bidirectional regional bus, which you can also see on our long-range plan that we're currently finishing up and is on the website. But that would look like more of an all-day bidirectional regional bus, which would then have those overlaid paratransit routes, and essentially really focusing on having that inter-community trunk line so that we can have that fixed route service and then have on-demand cover the other areas outside of it that may be harder to have, be more focused on a straight line bus versus having it go all over. And so that's where the on-demand has been really helpful with our services, and also looking at increasing those regional connections. And then with our innovative mobility solutions, they have talked about, they're looking a lot into electrification. And as you already have here, the electric on-demand buses or services, vehicles, excuse me. And so one thing that they're looking into the future of the possibility would be have automated buses run. So with no driver, they would come down, so we'd be able to run a better fixed route service in Tooele County. And that's would come with a lot of other factors as well, of course, but that's just some big ideas kind of that we're looking now for the 2043, 2050 service.
Thanks very much, Olivia. Any comments or questions for Olivia? All right. If it would work for everybody, if you could please let Olivia or myself know, say by next Monday, December 18th, if you have any additional comments or questions on this transit element, or would like more time beyond December to review it or discuss it with UTA, then please let us know in the next week, and we will proceed accordingly. Thanks.
All right,
Thanks
thank you.
again. In regard to agenda item 5, next steps with the Tooele Valley draft 2050 transportation plan. I'm aware of at least one concern regarding the highway phasing element. I have not heard any concerns regarding the active transportation element that was shared at this meeting in September, but have heard a concern or potential concern or two in regard to the highway phasing, and would welcome any comments or discussion in regard to the highway phasing either today or subsequent to this meeting. Typically, at least in the past, what has happened is after there's sufficient consensus around each element of the plan, we would take that out for public comment and then bring it back to the RPO to discuss any public comments and approve the plan. And important, I think, for all of us to keep in mind, this plan gets updated approximately every 4 to 5 years. And so it's not like it's entirely set in stone by any stretch. But hopefully it provides some useful information and tools to allow each individual local government or the local governments individually and collectively to move forward on various transportation priorities within Tooele Valley. Any comments or questions on the highway phasing that would be appropriate to please? Yes. So Rosie has on the screen, thank you, Rosie, the map that was shared at the September meeting, and you can see we're still in process. I mean, I'm purposely asked her to show the September, what was shared at September, since there are still a few outstanding issues, but one of those is to update the alignment on for phases or sections 2 and 3, the middle and southern sections of Mid-Valley Highway. And then another comment at the September meeting was involving the phasing of Mid-Valley Highway. And so if there's discussion on, if there's more discussion you'd like to have now or going forward in regard to Mid-Valley Highway, you can see what was shown at the September meeting was the middle section in phase 3 and the middle section in phase 2 and the southern section in phase 3. I've heard desires to move that phasing forward as there are significant needs and advantages to moving that forward. So would welcome any further comments or discussion. And Councilman Drouet.
So if I heard Juan right, it looks like funding is moving forward faster for the southern section of the Mid-Valley Highway as opposed to the middle section.
And that's correct. That funding is for right-of-way or one piece of right-of-way. It's not for more than that at this time, but part of the purpose of the plan is to indicate the timing of the current thoughts on the timing of the need. And so if there's a desire to move that southern section to an earlier, to either phase 2 or phase 1, this group is, the RPO is the one to decide that for the RPO plan.
Okay. Yeah, so Urda City is in favor of the southern section being done as soon as possible.
Okay.
And I think we think that once the southern section is done, the middle section is relatively inconsequential. You know, as I look at Highway 201 and all the years that we've used that, part of it's a highway, part of it's a divided highway, and part of it's a freeway. And it occurs to me that we may not have to spend that extra money in the middle section because there's already a highway there. And while it's not a freeway, again, 201 has been all three of those for decades and decades. Also, the Ochre Mountain Expressway along the base of the Ochre Mountains, Urda's not in favor of that. We see some significant problems with that, as well as some outcomes that we don't want to encourage. So,
thank you.
Right.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Councilmember Von Hatten.
Just to make it official, Lake Point is also not in favor of the Ochre Mountain Expressway as it's currently built. We do recognize that there needs to be another entrance in off of 201. We would just like to have other options considered.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other comments or questions? How about from the folks online? I'll just note, so between last meeting and, or beginning at last meeting and in between last meeting and this meeting, and now at this meeting, I'm hearing some desire to move that southern section of Mid-Valley Highway, to express that as a phase 1 need. Am I hearing that correctly? Asking, I see nodding heads in the room. Could somebody online tell me where Tooele City is at in terms of moving that, showing that as a phase 1 need rather than a phase 3 need?
But Mayor Wynn has an opinion on that.
I am here online and yes, it is a priority, but I still think we have some concern about the route. But it is necessary. It's got to happen one time or another. So Tooele City is moving forward.
Thank you. So one of the purposes of the councilman, please.
Go ahead. I appreciate Councilman Durbay's comments about coming through aligning to sheep lane. I appreciate that. But I think it brings to a point that we do this as one package. We consider not just 2 and 3, but we consider this number 2. And number 2 includes what Mayor Wynn's pushing for to come out on the south end. But we need to get that heart and center of the valley taken care of, because that's where the impact of the traffic's coming through. So critical that we get this done together. Let's not piecemeal it. But I think we can work with the municipalities, with ERDA and the other players. But let's get this together and get this done in one big effort to get it done now. Now, if we have taken the steps, we can take in steps. But I think the value is because we are with the inland ports coming, the Grantsville's and Tooele counties, we need to collectively work on this. And there's been deep discussion back many years ago about why we didn't go down sheep lane, why we went to a different alternate route. And I think we need to come together as a county and say, let's explore, let's get this done. Let's not piecemeal it. Let's take advantage of this, why that commission's coming out, and get our shit together so that we get it right.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And Councilman Minor.
Yeah, this sir, I'm more in favor of, like Scott said, about doing phase 3, because that's the more dire needed. The one in the middle won't have as big an impact on everyone around as the phase 3. So I'm for moving the phase 3 up and not worrying about phase 2, because it's not going to have a big impact as phase 3 will.
Okay. Thank you. So just as a refresher, this plan expresses the needs for transportation facilities, major transportation improvements out to 2050, and really it's the environmental process. The usual pattern across the country, as far as I'm aware of, is to identify needed facilities with the recognition at a planning level or in planning documents that the alignment may vary. And so it's really the environmental process that determines alignments. It's not necessarily the planning process. And so given that, and whatever the RPO would like to, however you would like to move forward, I'll follow your direction. This is your plan. And so that's what I want to do. Given that context, that it's the environmental process that determines the alignment, and that a primary purpose of the planning document is to identify needs. Is there any objection to moving that southern section of Mid-Valley Highway to either phase 2 or phase 1 on this planning document? If not, from what I heard, there's some desire, even although I'm hearing both that there are still concerns about the alignment. I'm also hearing that there's a need for this southern section to move forward expeditiously. And so from my perspective, I think it would be helpful to show that as a phase 1 project, a phase one need on this RPO plan. Any objections to that, or any further discussion desired on that? If not, go ahead, please.
This is Jeff Dupay. I'm in Chip's office, and I just want to give a word of caution on moving something up in the plan as it stands right now. Because my understanding is if something gets moved up, that means something has to be moved back, because it also has to fit the financial constraints of the LRP.
Thank you, Jeff. That's Jeff Dupay, Planning Manager for UDOT Region 2. And in the for the statewide plan, and correct me, Jeff, if I'm mistaken, but my understanding is that for the statewide plan and the plans that are developed for the Metropolitan Planning Organization areas throughout the state, those plans have to be, there's a requirement that those plans be fiscally constrained. I'm not aware that there's a requirement for fiscal constraint with the RPO plan, but if given that if there is that potential, I mean, I'm not confident of the feasibility of applying fiscal constraint to locally owned facilities and potentially to state-owned facilities in the RPO plan. Obviously, and maybe not necessarily obviously, but the fiscal constraint, the state plan is the governing document for currently state-owned facilities and for future state-owned facilities. And so I wanted to be entirely respectful of the state's jurisdiction there. And also, so in my mind, I guess what I'm saying is, in my mind, this planning document represents for the RPO, not the state plan that's the governing document, but for the RPO, this plan is an opportunity to express needs. And so, but given that it sounds like it would still be worthwhile to have some further discussion on this point with UDOT, why don't we hold off on a decision? We'll take all the information that's been shared and have some additional conversation, both perhaps in regard to Ochre Expressway as well as into Mid-Valley Highway, and then we'll come back and reach out with further opportunity for discussion. But is that all? Any objections to holding off on a decision on the phasing expressed in this plan, or would the RPO members, the elected officials, prefer to adjust the phasing in today's meeting? Yes.
This is Jay Aguilar at UDOT. I just wanted to reinforce what Jeff just said. It's just a good opportunity to understand that that this is a planning document. It's not a funding document, and so it's important that we hear what what the local government's priorities are. But it's also a good opportunity to explain kind of what Jeff said, that there are limited funds, and that often if something is moved up ahead of something else, then it creates a need to again, reconsider priorities, both at the local level and perhaps to find more money to try to do things in, one of the commenters said, not in a piecemeal way. And so if the project needs to be done as a whole, that also implies that it may be a much bigger project that needs to be done all at once, which can, present other challenges. So just good to clarify that planning documents don't necessarily come with funding. And so let's not set up the expectation that the money is readily available.
Thank you, Jay. Appreciate that. And thank you, Jeff. Appreciate your raising that point as well. Any other discussion on this topic? All right, thank you. And we'll move to other business. Any other items of other business? I'll note just a couple of things in regard to funding. Applications for the funds that the Joint Highway Committee, the statewide Joint Highway Committee makes recommendations on. Those applications are due the 2nd January or 2nd Friday in January, perhaps 5 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. And so I'm aware that the non-urban surface transportation program funds and some of the transportation statewide, and these are all statewide funds. There's perhaps it's mostly federal, if I'm not mistaken. Paul Hansen can add additional insight, but my understanding is that the non-urban surface transportation program funds are open for applications this year, and that the small urban are not open for application this year. Is that accurate, Paul?
Yes, that is correct.
All right. Thank you. So that's one note. 2nd Friday in January, applications for these statewide funding programs can be submitted by the 2nd Friday in January. Chris Potter with UDOT is the primary contact there, helps with the administration of those funds. I would also like to note that the RAISE federal discretionary grant program has another notice of funding opportunity out. And one of the criteria for those RAISE funds one of the key criteria for those RAISE funds is job creation. And if I read the NOFO correctly, half of that nationwide funding has to go to rural areas and half has to go to urban areas. So wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that funding, discretionary grant, competitive grant funding opportunity that's happening nationwide. All right, if there are no other items of business, Councilman Thomas, please.
Could you please explain the meeting on Friday? I said it was Thursday. Would you kind of explain that again? Who's invited? And go over that one more time, because I muddied the water.
You're fine. Thank you. I'm glad you brought it up. So the Statewide Transportation Commission meeting is this Friday at 9 o'clock at the Calvin Rampton Complex. Their regularly scheduled meeting that happens 8 times a year, roughly. And it's the same meeting that's scheduled out here in February. And there's a section at the beginning of it anyway, there's a section at the beginning of it for public comment. And is that enough information on that? Okay, thank you. And like I said, we will email out the contact information for the coordinator of those meetings. There was something else that came to my mind, but has since left. And so, yeah, we'll go with that for now. And next RPO meeting is scheduled for the second Monday in March. If there's a desire to meet sooner than that or have discussions prior to that, please let me know and we will proceed accordingly. And again, just a reminder, if you have additional comments or questions on the transit element, if you could get those to Olivia or myself by next Monday, that would be helpful. And with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Any objections? Terrific. Meeting adjourned. Thank you again, everyone.